Good evening. This is Maestro Cortella with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite modcast. Today we have a 3v3 on Argent, Shelf, probably Redux. Our first player today is Commissar Sebastian Yarrick, playing as the Eldar Farseer. This looks like a recolored Uthway DLC. Looks quite amazing. The Farseer is a support hero, which makes her quite a bit different from most of the other heroes in the game. She is not a terribly effective fighter, certainly not to start out, and not as much as tanky melee heroes, and does not do range damage. So mainly focuses on using abilities, especially to buff her own units or debuff enemy units. Next up, we got Noisy, playing as the Chaos Sorcerer. Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer. He is another spellcasting hero, also does not quite excel in melee or range, to be honest, and mostly focuses on spellcasting. His are a bit more offensively oriented or positioning oriented than buffing or debuffing. Next up, we got Tyger, playing as the Lord General. Because I'm in command, that's why. The Lord General is also a support hero. So we got a team full of support heroes. The Lord General his abilities are almost exclusively about buffing his troops, though. And he definitely does significant range damage, and he also does decent melee damage as well. On the other team, first of all, we got Pibb, playing as the Chaos Lord. Apparently does not play as Chaos maybe all that much, because he's got a Chaos Lord right here with that regular power sword instead of the crazy demon sword. Chasing after some Dire Avengers with his twin-linked bolter. He can do a little bit of range damage for a melee hero, a little bit more than most ranged heroes. And he can also be quite a tanky melee hero, and he cannot be knocked down or suppressed. Next up, we got Ace of Swords, playing as the Apothecary. Normally I would say he's not a great fighter, but there he's just toughing it up against some Chaos Space Marines. Mostly focuses on healing, though. Ooh, just exploding in retreat. And then finally, we got Osinski here in base as the Force Commander, Captain Diomedes. A tanky melee hero can be knocked down and suppressed. He can also knock down other people with Battle Cry, and he can use that to disrupt melee units that try to attack him. So now we got a high-level 3v3 today. A lot has already happened, I think. I always take some time with my long introductions. Howling Banshees trying to approach, but taking a little too much range fire from these Chaos Space Marines, and then they know that they can't just walk right into Doomblast, because that's pretty much when they gotta go. And they're only gonna win fights against heretics, usually if they're getting support and the heretics aren't, but in this case it was the Banshees that were not getting support while the heretics were. Heretics still at 7 out of 8 models, and should now probably go. They will probably lose too many models if they try to keep fighting. Looks like we have a positioning game going on right here, and Tyger with a quadruple guardsman build. And you hardly ever see this build. This build almost never happens. I think I've seen Tex do it once, and he lost when he did it. You do often see triple guardsmen, most commonly double, but triple I have seen, and I actually think triple guardsman is a very, very powerful build. For quadruple guardsmen, I mean, you would think, well, if triple guardsman is such a good build, why not quadruple guardsman? And I mean, at this point, you're spending money on one of 4 of the same unit, and you're not getting a whole lot of extra functionality out of like having some kind of different unit. And you don't have anything that I mean, all of these get countered by the same thing. As opposed to if you got like 3 guardsmen and a sentinel would help you countering the melee. 3 guardsmen and a Catachan. Catachan has a lot of purposes and a lot of functionality that guardsmen do not serve. 3 guardsmen and a heavy weapon team. You just get some kind of extra functionality, and right now Tyger's not getting that. That being said, we'll see how well this works out in the course of the game. He has already gotten the stabilizers, which allows him to heal his units over time, which is probably one of the reasons he got the quadruple guardsmen. This is part of what he's trying to do, really going with an infantry-based build. Meanwhile, over here, I like how Yarrick he's taken the point, and now he's holding up. He's set up a defensive position. Basically, if any units try to capture that point, they will start taking fire from these Dire Avengers, and the Dire Avengers will not take any damage because they are behind the energy shield. There are still some things that Pibb could definitely do. He does have the Chaos Lord here with an energy shield. He's shooting him in with Heretic Worship, and he can also get the Havoc to suppress those Dire Avengers, which would prevent them from doing their damage. And then that also means that first of all, that the Dire Avengers can't move and that they can't get away from these heretics that are going to approach. You need to be very, very careful about that grenade spike, though. The grenades as a defensive tool against the heretics can be extremely, extremely powerful. And I would say it's high risk, high reward, but there is a huge payoff in the reward, since you can wipe a heretic squad from full health with a single grenade, even if it has the aspirant champion. Back over here, looks like we have an Apothecary being extremely, extremely aggressive here, leading the charge against all these units, but he's at least buying time for the Devastators to set up. And right now I don't think there's even a whole lot in terms of what's going to counter these Devastators. So most of these units that are getting hit are just going to straight up start taking that damage. I think either we're probably going to have some squad here that's going to get forced off, taking shots from the Tactical Marines. But look at this huge Guardsman blob right here. Not such a high DPS Guardsman blob yet, and everyone has their Sergeant. The Guardsmen, each individual Guardsman squad is not that powerful, but obviously when you have 4 of them, that is going to make them quite a bit more powerful. And once they get maybe plasma guns in tier 2, that will make them very, very powerful against all these plasma squads. Now we have Noisy using the Sigil of the Rift, but he's actually using it aggressively, choosing to send Chaos Space Marines in rather than pull the Devastator Marines out. Which there are certainly some merits to that, and you can definitely use that. That's actually, I mean, it's a very good idea to use the Sigil of the Rift that way when you're fighting against something that is not a setup team, because then you can actually just get a flank by basically teleporting a squad. And it's basically like you can pretend that like you have, well, not pretend, you can teleport any one of your units, which is part of the versatility of the Sigil of the Rift. I've kind of been, I don't know, I haven't really been saying this as much, but my actual opinion recently of the Sigil of the Rift has changed, and I'm actually kind of now of the opinion that it is the best war gear for going in that 3rd war gear slot for the Sorcerer. And even though people haven't known about all of the uses for it, I would say it always has been, just that people haven't known the uses for it. But the potential has always been there. There are so many things you can do with it, so many creative things you can do with it, and it just has so much more versatility than Tome of Subjugation or the Icon of Tzeentch, as powerful as those warriors can be or have been in the past. And most people still don't even know, really, a lot of the uses for Sigil of the Rift.
Shall we secure it?
But it's like you don't even necessarily need to get Bloodletters or Raptors with the Sorcerer. You can use Sigil of the Rift to teleport a unit that is otherwise not a jump unit. You can turn any Chaos Squad into a jump unit. Well, I guess that's what I was trying to say. You cannot teleport vehicles with the Sigil of the Rift, however. That would be probably a little too good. Anyway, now we have a heavy weapon team pulled out of position, and this might now be a wipe on the heavy weapon team. Unfortunately, Noisy did not close the rift, and he actually saw the Force Commander and the Assault Marines teleported through it. He did not close it quickly enough, I guess. And all of a sudden, we just had a Force Commander and some Assault Space Marines right over here. Assault Marines using Merciless Strike, and now Banshees are in a ton of trouble, and I think Banshees, did they get out of there alive? One model just barely gets out of there. It can be a little trickier to use Banshees in teams than in 1v1. Certainly they can still do a lot of crazy, ridiculous things. But when you're fighting against like multiple range mobs, you can't just send Banshees in. They will get focused down, and they can get wiped pretty easily too. But the red team looking very, very strong right now with 457 to 203 VP leads, soon to be less than 200 VPs for the blue team, and it's about to be, I mean, yeah, and it's about to be a triple cap for the red team. And they've had most of the map control. The blue team also having just fewer squads, fewer units. Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines in cover, though, are such a great asset. They already do quite a bit more damage than the Tactical Marines, so they will really, really do some nasty things. Ooh, Plasma Cannon shots going in, but missing, so that at least those Chaos Space Marines now know what's up, know to watch out for that that Plasma Cannon Devastator. And the Plasma Cannon Devastator is certainly something that can really do some nasty things to Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. All right, we had Sigil of the Rift again, and oh man, that Devastator squad just straight up got wiped. And I thought maybe that Devastator squad wouldn't get wiped because it was only going to be against range damage, and the range damage, I figured that Ace of Swords would have retreated his Devastator, but he just didn't hit the button quickly enough, and so he just took 2 times Tzeentch Chaos Space Marine fire, as well as 4 squads of Plasma Guardsmen. 4 squads of Plasma Guardsmen. And Tyger also got the Commissar on every single one of these. I actually didn't think he was going to do that, but he did. So he's still just rocking the only Guardsman build. And unfortunately for him, let's see, Tyger does not have any AV to deal with that Razorback. And funnily enough, though, I think that Razorback, oh my god, there we go, taking out the Devastator Marine squad. I think just from all that range fire, as well as the Warfire ability from the Chaos Sorcerer. But I think that Razorback took damage just from all the Plasma and Inferno damage basically from this range blob, even though there was no actual AV. But oh my god, the Guardsmen now suffering immensely. I think like most of those squads just got hit by Merciless Strike from those Assault Marines. Assault Marines still in a little bit of trouble, though. I think lucky not to lose a model. And I think we're going to have a dead squad of Grenade Launcher Heretics. Noisy just not paying attention. They got burned alive. Burn the Heretic. Here we go with something here. This is a Summoning Circle Global, which is kind of curious. I think Noisy is probably doing that just because he wants to try to stall the Generator Bash, because it's really not actually that good for, I don't know, it's really just not actually that good, except for the purpose of just stalling. At least in that situation, it's better now if you actually use it in the middle of engagement where you actually have the rest of your units there to support, take advantage of either taking a setup team out of play with it or using the reinforcement from it. Meanwhile, back over here, we have Noisy now with the Bright Lance Wraithlord, which it's fighting against this Blood Crusher. I think the Blood Crusher is now going to be at a disadvantage, which all this support coming from the Banshees as well as the rest of these squads. Unfortunately, the Heretics got out of there with the Banshees just not following up, just not taking them out. I think the Banshees could have taken out that Heretic squad. We have another Sigil teleport. This one accidentally teleporting friendly Guardsmen, and I think those Guardsmen might need to get out of there. Ooh, and this is Noisy's I don't know. I think maybe that was intentional. And wow, he took off 3 models from those Tactical Marines, including the Sergeant, with that teleport of the double Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. Double Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, extremely, extremely powerful as a counter to any type of infantry, and it's just limited by the fact that by going for this build, you often limit yourself against vehicles because of how expensive a build it is. Plasma Cannon shots still going in, and now going in from Osinski. He's got a Plasma Cannon Devastator. Certainly a good choice, I think, against the extremely ranged-heavy composition that Noisy and Tyger have, with those double Chaos Space Marines from Noisy and the quadruple Guardsmen from Tyger. And Tyger, I mean, he's bunching up these Guardsmen, so one Plasma Cannon shot is going to do wonders, and even one Assault Cannon Barrage if we can get in range right here. But if Tyger is reacting, oh, I thought he was going to maybe put those Guardsmen inside the Chimera. Now, the Guardsmen, actually, they didn't lose too many models from that Assault Cannon Barrage. They just lost a lot of health. But the Lord General actually switched out the Sniper Rifle for the Meltaguns. That is a good choice for some reasons. Instead of giving a range buff, it's going to give a damage buff. But I think more importantly, it gives him an actual anti-vehicle weapon against all these vehicles. This Razorback, the Dreadnought, so he can actually threaten all those vehicles. Meanwhile, the Plasma Cannon Devastator is in a lot of trouble trying to reinforce off the Razorback, but also taking a ton of model losses in the process. And I think it just can't do that. A grenade was thrown, but ultimately, in fact, Osinski lost the Plasma Cannon Devastator to all this Plasma Gun fire, as well as the Zinchcast Space Marine fire. And Noisy and Tyger still really lacking a true counter, and now Tyger is really getting blown up. He does have one squad that is nearly dead, 31 hit points. But he is going to get all of them out of there, and he does have a Chimera to support them now with reinforcements. Guardsmen, of course, extremely cheap to reinforce, but he is going to be reinforcing these guys instead of letting them heal up. Meanwhile, we got a heavy turret, and that heavy turret, ooh, teleports the Lord General. The Lord General is skiing away, but I think he just might be able to take out this Razorback. I think the Razorback is actually getting too many repairs, or too much repairs, from 3 squads of scouts, so that could have been a nice play. The Lord General looked like he was skating through there. And this could potentially be bad for the Wraith Lord. The Wraith Lord, however, is tying up the only source of AV that Pibb has. Pibb, at some point, lost his Blood Crusher, did not catch it on screen. Now bleeding some models off of Plague Marines. And the Blood Crusher, the Wraith Lord still has to be a little careful because he is going to take light damage from many of these other squads. Luckily, support is coming from behind from the rest of Yarrick's units. But now there is some additional AV for Pibb. He does have a Las Cannon Havoc, but the Wraith Lord is not inside that firing arc. Meanwhile, the Plague Marine's still in base. Las Cannon Havoc's resetting up, but they still miss their shot, and I think currently their line of sight is blocked. And Pibb is resetting up that Havoc again, so he really has not been able to do much against this Wraith Lord yet. Now the Wraith Lord is backing off, going to get some support from the rest of these squads. And the Havoc still hasn't set up. Need to set up that Havoc. Oh no. So unfortunately, some rather unfortunate micro derps out of Pibb, but now he's going to be able to set up that Havoc, and this is a really bad position. This could be the end of this Wraith Lord, unless all of these units, but there we go, we actually have, wow, so some nice plays by Yarrick, keeping that Wraith Lord alive and tying up all that anti-vehicle. Now back over here, Noisy and Tyger have managed to keep their same builds going, except now we also have the Razorback still. That's not what I was going to talk about. I was not going to talk about the Razorback. Now we also have a Manticore for Tyger. I was distracted by looking at a text message on my phone, but this Razorback is done. Now I am talking about the Razorback. It is done. Just too much now, I think, from the Manticore shots, repair support not being there, and even if there was repair support, it would have gotten murdered alive by all these guardsmen with these plasma guns. And Osinski now has almost nothing. He is going to get a Land Raider Redeemer. Meanwhile, Noisy is getting a Land Raider Phobos. Did not even get much. He only had the double cast Space Marines and the Plague Marines as well. And he's got levels on all of them. And you know, I'm sure we have multiple levels on these Guardsmen. And we're also probably going to have some levels on this Dreadnought as well. Level 3 Dreadnought, in fact. A lot of Guardsmen died, but Tyger manages to get out of there, and a completely wasted orbital bombardment. A single Guardsman in there. That was the extent of it. Or he says not even one. Yeah, I think not even one. That might have just been a dead model. But here we go with Yarrick, using that Psychic Storm ability that comes from the Rune Armor, that new ability in the Elite mod, just kind of does damage and suppression over time in an area. Apparently actually a pretty good ability. You see it a lot, to be honest. grenade on the Havocs, but the Havocs actually retreat out of there in time. Meanwhile, these Banshees are in here. They are aspect of Strength Banshees, but they cannot really fight against the Battlecry Force Commander and the Chaos Lord as well. Chaos Lord level 4 with the Combi Flamer, the Armor of the Inferno, and also the Dark Halo. Interesting to see the Dark Halo along with an otherwise relatively energy-intensive build. And by energy-intensive, I mostly mean the Armor of the Inferno. But there we go with a Imperial Abyss, and I actually think that was a terrible Imperial Abyss because all it did was take out the Webway Gate, and that was take out something that spend 500 red to destroy something that cost 75 red. Because Yarrick just put all of his units back inside the Webway Gate before it died. So, not really great uses of nukes so far. Here we go with the Land Raider Phobos, and we have some Noise Marines, Plague Marines. And now, ooh, the VPs are very close, considering before I feel like they weren't. 129 to 158. Pibb, however, is holding up in here, building double Corn Shrines. They spawn Bloodletters, and they also increase the damage of nearby squads. We do see these buff circles around them. The Psychic Storm now actually misses. Now, Pibb doesn't have a whole lot in terms of melee counter, and the Havoc off the field already. But the Havoc doesn't actually need to do anything. But the Bloodletters actually, I mean, not the Bloodletters, the melee Heretics go down. I was not expecting that. I thought, but I guess they must have been taking range fire in addition to these Banshees fighting them. Banshees are beastly right now at level 4. You do not want to get Banshee. You do not want to let Banshees get to level 4 because then they kind of. They're really compensating for one of their weaknesses at that point, which is the fact that they are relatively squishy. At level 4, they are not as squishy as they used to be. Meanwhile, back over here, we have Land Raider to Land Raider fights. Manticore shots going in, which can always be very, very powerful against a Land Raider, and especially when you have someone who is retreating to the Land Raider. Ace of Swords lost a scout squad right there. So I would even go as far to say right now that the Manticore is a hard counter to Land Raiders, not just for the damage it does to the Land Raider, but because it makes retreating to the Land Raider so ridiculously unsafe. Not just unsafe, like more than unsafe, like it's a death trap, like it's bad.
As it was fated.
And then that really negates a lot of the advantage of the Land Raider.
The enemy has 100 points remaining.
So now we actually have the blue team pretty much occupying the red team's natural. Osinski says he's getting the Flamer to deal with them, getting the Terminator Heavy Flamer. I think the Terminator Heavy Flamer for the Force Commander is still going to need to be very careful about all of that anti-heavy infantry fire. The Force Commander does have heavy infantry armor when he is a Terminator, so he's going to be taking bonus damage from those Chaos Space Marines as well as all those Guardsmen. And a Manticore Rocket wipes one of Pibb's, his only remaining Heretic squad, just with that one rocket. Another great use of the Manticore, instantly wiping Heretic squads that do not have an aspiring champion. So while Noisy and Tyger take the middle, looks like Pibb is managing to force Yarrick off. And we actually see the Demon Shield, or the Demon Armor, which grants the Demonic Shield for the Chaos Sorcerer.
The foe seeks to deprive us of a vital resource point.
And meanwhile, the red team needs to cap, or this might just be the end of the game for them. We have a decap in the back. Oh man, right now Pibb really needs to use one of his units to capture this VP, or this will be the end, I think. I mean, at the most, I think a decap is going to happen here by this Terminator Heavy Flamer, but he's also going to lose that Terminator Force Commander, and actually does not even get the cap off. And now it's actually a no-cap game somehow. Here we go with another Imperial Abyss. trying to get on the Land Raider Redeemer, trying to path block the Land Raider Redeemer a bit, but the Land Raider Redeemer is still alive. We need more las cannon shots to finish off that Land Raider Redeemer. I think the Land Raider Redeemer will get finished off, but so might this Land Raider Phobos because it's also taking damage. Which one will die first? And the Land Raider Phobos dies first, but if this heavy turret takes a shot, and it does, and we have Land Raiders about to crash into each other. Oh my god, and here we go. The Lord General. He's got the stabilizers. He's also got a Commissar giving him the refractor field ability, also allowing him to reduce damage taken. And I think now we might have, now the game is definitely going to be over. Double cap for the blue team, and they're not going to be able, the red team is not going to be able to get a VP back. And that is the end of that game. Hope you enjoyed it.